Hello everyone, welcome to 7th Week Council of Hilary Term. My name is Joe Inwood, I use he, him pronouns, and I'm your SU Council Chair. We're going to make a start with minutes of the previous meeting, any issues arising, any matters arising from the minutes. So we have some elections in Council, and I'm going to hand over to the returning officer, Jim Brennan.
Okay, the first position for which we've had a nomination is Steering Committee, and we've had a nomination from Joanne. Would anybody like Joanne to host? Sorry? Oh, she can't make it, sorry. So we'll move straight to voting. Sorry? Yeah, so we'll give you a minute or two to read that, and then we'll move to voting. Okay, we'll move to voting now. So press 1 for Joanne, 2 for Ron, and 0 for abstention. Voting closes in 3, 2, 1. And Joanne has been elected. Now we will move swiftly on to Chair of Council. We've had one nomination for one position for Dane Rogers. Would anybody like Dane to host? Okay, Dane, could you make your way to the front? Do we have any questions for Dane? Recognise Tom?
Hello, Tom Barringer, he, him, Oxford SU. So we have a new strategy as a student union. We have a liberation vision that's kind of currently in consultation. Having said this, the chairs of council previously have been pretty overwhelmingly male and white and able-bodied. Now, I'm not saying that this is, I'm not using this as a particular attack against you. I'd have to attack myself in the same way. But my question is, how will you ensure that the chair of council position and council in general becomes more diverse and sort of represents all of the student union?
Okay. Thank you very much for your question, Tom. So I guess the first thing in terms of this, I think we've got the liberation campaigns. I'd be firstly trying to, in the emails I'd be sending out if I were elected, talk much more about this, actively encourage both women and people from minority backgrounds to attend council, speak out, talk about the things they'd like me to discuss. So in that regard, it's unfortunate that I'm a whiter, heterosexual, cisgender male, but there's not really a lot I can do about that. So does that answer your question? I mean, one of the first things I would want to do actually in terms of the one of the pledges I think I made with the sorry, slight brain freeze, but obviously that's not the only part of me that's frozen. In terms of the two-page guide for council, one of the first things I would want to do while I was whipping that up over the Easter vacation would be to get in contact with the LGBTQ campaign, ask them to draft me something on pronouns so I can communicate why they're important, why we should do that. In terms of other issues of identity, I would be happy to consult with other liberation campaigns.
Okay, sorry, I should have mentioned, you can do a short speech if you'd like, but we could just continue with questions if you want. Okay, are there any more questions? Seeing none, we'll move to voting. Should open now. Okay, voting's open. 1 for Dane, 2 for Ron, 0 for abstention. Okay, and voting closes in 3, 2, 1. And Ron has been elected. So there is still a vacancy. Okay, thank you very much. And there is vacancies for returning officer, chair of council, and 1 steering committee as it stands. So please do nominate.
Thanks very much, Jim. We're going to move on to reports from and questions to the sabbatical trustees.
Right then. Hello, Council. Yes, Tom Barringer, still Oxford SU, he, him. So, we, Council might be aware, there's a strike going on. So a lot of the work that I've been doing and that we've all been doing has been sort of helping to sort of helping to organise the student presence on the picket lines, the support, the solidarity action there. There's been a lot of leaflets going around. I can see a lot of stickers in the audience crowd. Yes, in the room. It's a room, isn't it? That's what, I'm so sorry. So I've met with the E&E reps from Common Rooms, the Environment and Ethics reps, and I'm pleased to say that there's a motion tonight on E&E issues, which is kind of cool. I met with the charity reps, some of the charity reps to talk about the Oxford Hub and to talk about RAG and to talk about how these organisations can work better for Common Rooms, which I think was kind of cool. And speaking of RAG, we had a RAG committee election. We have almost got a full committee. Some of the positions were uncontested, including the VP for engagement and the raids officer and the charities liaison officer and the grad engagement officer and one sponsorship officer position. So if you want to get involved in the central fundraising organisation in the student union, then yeah, let me know. I can tell you how. Also join RAG in order to vote. And yeah, in order to sort of make sure that RAG represents the entire of the student body. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Faheen, Vice President Welfare and Equal Opportunities. I use she, her pronouns. The last weeks have kind of been like dominated by the stuff around the strike, which has been like really exciting, really galvanizing. It's been great to see a lot of you on the pickets. That's been fantastic. I've also been working on a few things behind the scenes. So I'm working on a welfare mapping project, which hopefully will be finished by next term and be publicly available in time for Freshers Week for next year's people. And I've also been working on a year abroad project, which has been postponed because the planned date for the information session, which was going to be in the modern languages faculty, fell on a strike day. So we thought it would be good to cancel that and reschedule for another time. So yeah, that will hopefully happen. That will hopefully happen next term. And like, if anyone's going on their study abroad in the next year, please do like feel free to message me, and we can figure out how to like make sure you get the information anyway. Another thing I've been working on is a prevent mandate that we got a few weeks ago in council, trying to collect some information from different colleges and different departments actually on what they've been doing with regards to prevent. We've received a couple of concerning things, so please do get in touch with anything surrounding prevent at all, because we want to know all that information so we can lobby in the right way. Yeah. And tomorrow is University Mental Health Day, which Kate will probably touch on a little bit. No? Will you? I don't know. We have a website thing. Yeah, we have a web page on all the stuff that's been going to be going on. So post all the strike action and all the stuff that's been going on this term. Kind of end your 7th week by going to a couple of the sessions around campus and particularly at the SU. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it from me. And check out my video report for anything else. Cheers.
Hello, I'm Marianne Melson. I'm the Vice President of Graduates and I use she, her pronouns. As the two others, I've been doing work on the UCU strike. This morning I had the chance to do some solidarity action. Loads of stickers handed out. That was really lovely. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came. It's pretty cold, and I think showing your commitment even when the weather is this cold is actually really, really impressive. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for showing your support. A few other things I've been working on is I'm working with our Mature Students campaign. Mature Students are a group that is not always the people we work the most for in the SU, so it's really good to work with this group and see what we can do for them, getting some feedback on the things they would like us to do to support them better. And then Tom and I and some of the MCRs are working on what we can do for graduates outside of term time. I think all grads probably know that grad life doesn't end after 8th week, even though sometimes it feels like you're the only one left in your college or your department. And I think we would like to try and do something about that over the break. Hopefully we'll be able to tell you more, give you some actual events and things going on, but you can find more information about that on our website quite soon.
Hi Council, I'm Kate, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the SU President. Again, I'll echo what these guys have said. I've actually written something down because I was like, what have I done apart from strike stuff? But
echo what these guys, thank you so much. Honestly, your support is just incredible. And just a reminder, obviously, it's not over yet. The fight continues, so please continue to show solidarity over the coming weeks as everything develops. Aside from that, recruitment's been a big focus for the last 2 weeks for me, so I've been recruiting all day today for a replacement for Emily. Cry. That's not something the staff team are particularly happy about, but yeah. And the wonderful lady in red at the side of the room, who we love. The head of student engagement and communications. I've been in interviews all day. I'm frazzled. So that's been a big focus, as well as recruiting for our trustee board and carrying out the mandate that council gave my predecessor on diversity of our trustee board. So we're really focusing on that. In terms of things coming up, as Faheen said, it's University Mental Health Day. It's also Self-Injury Awareness Day tomorrow, and it's Eating Disorders Awareness Week this week. Yeah, check out the website. There's some stuff going on. We'd love to see you. It's also, we've got an MP student surgery on Friday with the MP for East Oxford, which is Annalise Dodds. Please do come along. She's agreed to kind of come along termly based on whether or not people turn up, so it would be great to see some people. It's a really good chance for you to ask her some questions and hold her accountable. She's quite interested in hearing from students, so make sure your voices are heard. But yeah, that's it from me. Thanks.
And just a quick update from Catherine. Class Act elections are running for the next few weeks, so please also check out the Class Act Facebook page if you want to get involved in that. But yeah, that's great.
Great. Are there any questions? They're right at the back on the left-hand side, yeah. Oh, you got...
No, sorry. It's a roaming mic, sorry.
Hello, Tom Katz, he, him. I was just wondering specifically on the UCU strike, on talking to the university about urging them to oppose the reforms and get them to resume dialogues. What particular discussions have you had around that, and what's the university's precise stance on the reforms?
So it is something we're working on. I think, first of all, as a sabbatical team, we've been sending an open letter to the Vice-Chancellor and a load of other key stakeholders in the university. We've received a response that was basically what we expected them to say, which is like, I feel like saying the usual stuff. Well, we hear you, but also we disagree, and we're not going to change our opinion. We're, of course, going to continue to do that. I think in our committees, this is something that comes up, and I think from our perspective, it's been quite lovely to hear that many of the academics that are making decisions in committees are supporting the strike, and they are speaking out to get the university to change their stance. So in that way, we are trying to feed into these discussions. We're not there yet, but we're trying. I think we're coming to that later. Yeah. Something else I just wanted to mention is that we've been in touch with some of the common rooms and helped them to support like writing motions they can pass in their common rooms and mandating precedent and common rooms to send letters to the Vice-Chancellor, similar stuff. If some of you are interested in doing that in your common room, if you haven't done so already, please just get in touch and we can help you pull something together you can pass in your own common rooms.
Any other questions? Okay, great. So if you go to the SU website, you can find reports from SU campaigns. Is there anyone here from any of the campaigns who would like to give a verbal report to council? Yeah, cool. Do you want to?
I'm Sophie, I'm from OSDC. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Evie. I'm also from OSDC and I also use she, her pronouns. So this term, OSDC has gained numerous new committee members. Several of these committee members have been grad students, which is really positive because that's been a demographic that's been previously very underrepresented within the committee. So this will enable the OSDC to continue increasing the amount of focus we give to graduate-specific issues over the coming term. In terms of our work for the previous term, OSDC has continued our usual structure of hosting social events for students with disabilities, with a general social event in the even weeks of term and Art for the Heart, which is our mental health art support group, happening in odd weeks of term. And these are really useful events in terms of building a community and network for students with disabilities at Oxford. So we're really pleased to be continuously hosting these events. In fourth week of term, we organised Disability Awareness Week for the third year in a row, hosting several events around disability, including a panel on intersectionality, which was our theme for Disability Awareness Week this year. Due to the nature of this theme, we offered some of the other campaigns the opportunity to be involved in this panel. Other events during Disability Awareness Week included a discussion group on disability and also a Disability 101 workshop geared at explaining to those who host events how they can make them more accessible to students with disabilities. If that wasn't something you were able to attend but you are interested in, please get in touch with us. We also communicated with some of the college-specific disabilities reps to encourage college-level events to be held in colleges during Disability Awareness Week, which some of the colleges got involved with really successfully. Communicating with college disability reps is something that we're endeavouring to continue to do. So if that's particularly relevant to anyone here or relevant to your college, then please get in touch, because we're really eager to start encouraging things within colleges as well as on a university level. During this term, various committee members have met with staff around the university from staff from university and from different colleges. Our committee members have worked with colleges to improve their equality, accessibility and inclusivity policies, and we're also getting into contact with different departments to explore what else can be done in terms of supporting students with disabilities here at Oxford. Next week, one of our committee members is representing disabled students at the Termly Disability Library Subcommittee to discuss disability-related accessibility issues and improvements that can be made. Online this term, our mental health officer has continued to expand the Facebook-based mental health support groups we have available. This term specifically, new additions include a group for OCD and a group for personality disorders, in which students can talk with other students who share their conditions. Our main Facebook group continues to be an active online community where many students post for advice or discuss disability-related topics. As a campaign, we have also continued to work with the Student Union as a whole to increase the accessibility of its social media outlet, for example, the consistent use of image descriptions and its campaigning methods across campaigns. For example, encouraging an online dimension to protests and rallies so that students who cannot attend physically can still participate, and that's something we've been really happy to see since the beginning of the UCU strikes this term. In terms of a preview of what's to come from this point onwards, OSDC will be holding hustings and elections in 7th week this term to elect a new executive committee, currently consisting of a chair, vice chair, treasurer and secretary. We will also elect non-executive positions, which are appointed by an internal committee vote. Ongoing projects include finalising our Disability 101 workshop in order to begin facilitator training in the next term, and we also endeavour to support the Oxford SU in their plans for University Mental Health Day, using this as an opportunity to launch the old Mind Your Head Facebook page, rebranded as OSDC Mental Health and Wellbeing, offering a specific SU-affiliated subsection under the OSDC for mental health specific advice, advocacy and resources. As a campaign, OSDC continuously aims to bring together students with disabilities, campaign for better understanding, information and awareness of disability, and provide support and advocacy for students with disabilities at Oxford. We believe we have been meeting these objectives through our work this term and will endeavour to do so with meeting these objectives moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Actually, no. No need for questions. Okay. Are there any other more verbal reports? Sorry. There is another one. Great. I think, just for the record, I think there can be questions, but if you want to ask them, then yeah.
Hello, I'm Neha, Sheha, Chair of CRAE. This is both an apology and a report, because we haven't submitted our report. We've all been incredibly busy planning our teach-ins for the UCU strike, which is, yeah, pretty much what we've been doing. There's still 2 more next week, and various members of staff keep getting in touch to be like, we want to do them. So depending on the committee's capacity, we'll see how many we can accommodate. But yeah, keep coming to them. We're doing a really great one with the with WMCAM on International Women's Day next week, which is Thursday. And the other thing we've been doing is working on Prevent. So we've done a couple of training sessions for college liberation reps on kind of how to, based off the back of the motion that went through council a couple of weeks ago, on kind of how to keep preventing Prevent in colleges and the university. So yeah, sorry we haven't done one, but lots of love.
Thanks very much. Any more reports? Another one just up there.
Hi, I'm Rebecca, she, her pronouns. I'm Secretary for Target Schools. Basically, so this term we've hosted 2 shadowing days, one in conjunction with ACS. So we've had a total of, let's check, 85 Year 12 students being shadowing in Oxford, and then we hold workshops in conjunction with colleges. So basically, just to say, if anyone particularly wants to volunteer with us, then we'll have training sessions coming up either next term or in Michaelmas again. But if you're also trained, then we need more people to do things in sciences. So if anyone's interested, that's great. Thanks.
Great. More reports?
Hi, I'm Alex, he, him, on your doorstep, homelessness campaign. We haven't actually submitted a report yet because, as you're probably aware, having since most of you aren't from this college, thank God, it's pretty cold out there, and one thing on your doorstep's been campaigning hard for and working with City Council towards is expanding SWEP, which is the Severe Weather Emergency Protocol, which is when the local authority chooses to open emergency shelters to all rough sleepers, whether or not they have a verifiable local connection to the city or not. Currently the policy is that it's activated when it's 3 consecutive nights below 0. We're trying to get it opened when it's 1 night below 0. That's an ongoing campaign. We have Monday meetings. The last meeting of term is on Monday, 7 p.m., Oxford SU building. However, most importantly of all, if everyone can listen to this bit, if you see any rough sleepers outside or people sitting on the street or with bedding or whatever, people who look like they're sleeping rough, please advise them that tonight they can go down to O'Hanlon House on Luther Street, which is off of Speedwell Street down by St. Audits. And if they go to O'Hanlon House on Luther Street for 9 p.m., then they can get access to emergency shelter tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? Okay, report from the trustee board, I think, is going to be given now.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm one of the student trustees this year. I'm at Merton College and I use he, him pronouns. The trustee board can be slightly mysterious, but basically we are a group of 14 people made up of the 6 sabbatical trustees, 4 student trustees, and 4 external trustees who are not affiliated with the university but have valuable professional experience. And the trustee board is there to oversee the general management of the SU, make sure that everything continues to be financially viable and that the structures that we have work well for students. This term we've got various projects ongoing. We've just started a piece of work on how we support and work with campaigns, which will be unfolding in the coming months to try to make sure that we can support campaigns as effectively as possible. We have been doing work on equality and diversity, which, as Kate said, also feeds into the work of the nominations committee, who are recruiting for new external trustees at the moment because some of our external trustees are standing down. We have started doing some work on institutional memory to try to support the SU itself and the student groups we work with most closely to be able to hold relevant record information to sort of try to eliminate as far as possible the inefficiencies of the same mistakes or the same problems coming up and over and over again. We have also recently signed off all the financial reports for the 2016-17 financial year, which I imagine will make their way onto the Charity Commission website in due course. And I think that is everything that I was going to say. If you have any questions about the trustee board, about what we've been doing, please let me know. But yeah, we're your trustee board. We're here to try to make sure the union works as well as possible for all of you guys, and this is what we've been doing.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're now going to take a report from Scrutiny Committee.
Hi, I'm Anisha, she, her, Queen's College.
Hi, I'm Lucas, he, him from Wadham College.
So just a quick introduction into what Scrutiny Committee is. Scrutiny Committee is an advisory committee of the Council, elected by Council, to hold the sabbatical officers responsible for their work each term. The intention is that scrutiny is a constructive forum by which primarily we raise the successes of the sabbatical officers, but we also highlight any concerns where there may be any. And we generally focus on the projects of the SABs and their council mandates. So with Katie Haig, VP Women, the biggest thing that she's done this term is probably Sexual Violence Awareness Week, which we believe was a success. She's also been working on Project Safer, which is a drug harm reduction project, working on abortion rights, working on getting through the new trans policy to get the university to adopt a new trans policy. And we are generally quite pleased with her work. Thanks. Are you holding it? Catherine Canning, who is VP Access and Academic Affairs. We believe that she continues to make good progress in her role. She's working on diversification of assessment, addressing the race attainment gap, and she's created a central site database for access opportunities. Whilst some projects have stalled due to the UCU strike and the NSS boycott, we believe that she's been making sufficient progress despite all of this. And Marianne, VP Grads, she's been working on the Graduate Access project, which has changed quite a bit in direction from what she originally promised in her manifesto. We believe that she's taken on a more realistic stance with this, bringing in MCRs and grads that are interested to help rather than trying to do a whole project on her own. The inspiration catalogue has been created but is kind of stalled due to lack of comms capacity, which is understandable. One small concern we would raise would just be to encourage her to look at how council mandates can be fulfilled. The two council mandates that we have in mind would be the mandate to lobby the government to remove excessive visa restrictions and charges for international students, and the other mandate to raise the issue of allowing international freshers at all colleges to arrive several days before UK freshers if they want or need to with common rooms. If she believes that she's not the right person to fulfill these mandates, then we believe that she should communicate this to council, but we are generally happy with the work that she's doing.
Okay, so just one thing to say, even though we're presenting them in split up, we actually work together on evaluating almost all of the SAB trustees, except for Catherine Canning, because I'm going to be taking over that role next year, so we thought put a little bit of a divide there. Anyway, so on the SU president. Despite challenging circumstances, Kay has continued good work as Oxford SU president, and we're sure that Kay will fulfil even more of her manifesto pledges in her coming term, and record her efforts to ensure institutional memory is well preserved. On VP Charities and Communities, Tom has worked very hard in the past term and achieved real results. Scrutiny Committee urges Tom to keep up the good work, but also to build a foundation for future years by recording lessons learned. And on VP Welfare and Equal Opportunities, Farheen has done amazing work on a huge number of projects. Scrutiny Committee is very sure that this will lead to a very successful term until our next meeting, but asks Farheen to ensure she doesn't burn out. Overall, it's the opinion of Scrutiny Committee that the sabbatical officers have made significant progress on their projects and have generally worked hard on their mandates in a challenging term. Whilst on some projects only a limited amount of progress has been made, plans have also been presented to put almost all on track. An area where Scrutiny Committee does feel it must raise concerns is in the relationship between SU Council and the sabbatical officers. More work can be done to build a constructive relationship, and we've agreed a number of steps forward with the sabbatical officers. We have confidence that they'll be achieved. So, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, any questions to the Scrutiny Committee? Should we start at the back? Is there anyone?
Hi, Alex, Wadham, he, him. I was just wondering what Scrutiny Committee's opinion was on the work that the SABs are doing on the NSS boycott. How do you think that's going? in terms of the mandate?
So the Oxford SU is composed both of a sabbatical team and of a number of staff, employed staff. And the NSS boycott mandate has taken up a lot of sabbatical team time, and they've been doing a lot of good work there. They've been meeting with a lot of people in the university and keeping people informed and in the loop, and working as well on new methods of evaluating student experience and bringing that data to meetings, which is actually very important. The university actually really likes it when we have data to back up what we say. But one thing that has been happening with the NSS boycott is that it's taking up a lot of staff time outside the sabbatical officer's role. So a number of projects have been pushed back because of the burden on communication capacity that's been put through by creating NSS boycott posters, putting them in the newspapers, as you might have seen. So yeah, we're actually very comfortable with how the sabbatical team have been taking forward that project, well, that mandate.
Any more questions? Any more questions?
How does Scrutiny think the SABs are dealing with the collegiate structure and reaching out to students who don't engage with the SU? And suggestions for future, etc.
So we think, like obviously there is an issue with reaching out to. Obviously there has been an issue in the past with SU engagement of JCRs and MCRs, but we believe that the SABs are making quite a lot of progress on this. They've been meeting with, like Kate's tried to meet as many JCR presidents as possible, really, and MCR presidents. Katie is working on reaching out to parents and carers. Yeah, there's just, yeah.
One particular success is that Kate has been able to build relationships with the common room of Harris Manchester, who were previously unaware. Who, you know, because the institutional memory is quite weak, especially in the common rooms. So people can sort of lose touch with the SU. One really interesting project that we think is going on is to build sort of what the SU can do for you, and sort of and make sure that link is put out and common rooms are really engaged in that method. Another way that I don't think we're really happy with is the growth of the equality and diversity communities, which function as sort of a pres comms, but for equality and diversity roles in common rooms. So actually, a lot's really been done on that, and I think we're really happy with what's being done. Maybe it would be good for the future sabbatical team to be given a mandate specifically on this issue, because that's always a way to focus people's attentions. The way that we go through scrutiny committee reports is by literally listing people's mandates. I want this in the manifesto, and see how they're doing on that. So having an explicit mandate would really do some good work there.
And something else to note is that the SABs have been really good with building relationships between JCRs and MCRs, like doing things like EdCom and then socials for women's officers across colleges, which we believe is an important thing to do.
Great. Any more questions to Scrutiny? Okay, we're going to move on. Thank you very much. So we're actually now going to move on to items for resolution. Item 1, bringing Class Act into line with other SU liberation campaigns and SU bylaws. Would the proposer of this like to come and just make a short speech?
Hi, Hilary, he, him. This motion basically brings Class Act in line with the other liberation campaigns in the bylaws. So this basically would mean that, so unlike other campaigns, liberation campaigns don't have to follow SU policy. They can't have their executive changed by a voting council, which other campaigns can. And then what's the third thing that I'm forgetting? And votes in council. We don't get as many votes in council as the other liberation campaigns. This changes that. So if people have questions as to why, they can.
Great. Any short factual questions? Okay. Is there any opposition to this motion? Oh, we have to vote on it. Okay. So we're going to vote on it. So voting is open. press 1 in favour, 2 against, and 0 to abstain. Okay, voting closing in 3. Okay, I'm just going to leave it a little bit longer. Is everyone, if you're not satisfied that you've managed to cast your vote, then please just, right, we'll wait until we've... Okay, we're going to move on in that case. Okay, so voting has closed, and that passes unanimously. Okay. Okay. So we're now moving to item 2 on the agenda, University Scope 3 emissions. And I just invite the proposer to give a short speech.
Hi, Harry, he, him, or Henry, he, him, Wadham. So I've actually sent in some advance amendments to this motion after talking to Tom. So it's mainly to Resolve 2. So amending Resolve 2 because I did this motion about 5 minutes before the deadline, really in a hurry, and that's incredibly broad. So to mandate the Vice President Charities and Community to review targets set in 2011 by the university on reducing emissions from staff commuting and from resource procurement. They set policies in 2011. There's been no updates since, and the targets they set were set to expire in 2012 or 2013. So, so the other resolves are to mandate the Vice President Charities and Community to lobby the university to measure its Scope 3 emissions, which are indirect emissions resulting from its investments, from the travel by its staff, either on business or commuting, and from its supply chain. And Resolve 3, where emissions are impossible or practical to mitigate, to mandate the Vice President Charities and Community to, again, encourage the university to engage in carbon offsetting for these emissions.
Great, thank you. So only one amendment was received in advance, and that's the amendment from Tom, Oxford SU. So I don't know if you'd like to fill in.
I did send you the amendments to Resolve 2. I definitely sent them.
Okay.
It was only about an hour ago.
About an hour ago?
Yeah.
Ah.
Kind of last minute. Because, huh? I sent it to Tom, and then Tom seconded it, and then sent it to you.
Okay. Okay, so I'll read this out. So we have received it just very, very recently. So is it all?
It's not all changed. It's just slightly.
So what exactly has changed with the?
Again, it's what I read out. So again, instead of mandating just SU President and Vice President Charities Community, to mandate just Vice President Charities Community, and again, Resolve 2 to mandate the Vice President Charities Community to review targets set in 2011 on resource procurement and staff.
Is this the same meeting? Yes, I'm sorry. It's the same one. It's the same thing.
Sorry.
Yes.
It is. Okay, great. So we have received an amendment and it's been accepted as friendly, and I hope everyone is as clear, or more clear maybe than I am, on the details. Great. Are there any short factual questions? Oh, we've got an amendment coming in? Okay, so we're waiting on an amendment. We will wait for that, but in the meantime, are there any other short factual questions? There's a few, yeah. So.
Sorry, Kate, she, her, Oxford SU. Sorry, just point of information. The reason that I've been taking out this motion is because I have a lot of council mandates. I'm trying to be realistic with my time and with you about what I can achieve, and I believe the prevent mandate you gave me a couple of weeks ago is more important. Tom believes he has the capacity to do this, and that's why this was status friendly. Just before you think I'm trying to get out of work, I think it's really important. I don't have the time to do this, I'm afraid.
Okay, more questions? Just in the second row, yeah.
Dane Rogers, Merton College, I use he, him pronouns. I think you mentioned in point 4 something about encouraging the university to consider offsetting schemes. Do you have any ideas for which ones in particular you want to encourage, as some are much more efficient than others, and it would be good to get this right?
Yeah, definitely some offsetting schemes are definitely not effective. So there's an Oxford-based organisation, actually, the Oxford Climate Society work with, called Climate Care, which is one I'd encourage Tom to recommend to the university. Some offsetting schemes, of course, just fund planting trees in developing countries, which doesn't really do anything. Others are actually genuinely effective. They invest in renewable energy technologies and in climate adaptations technologies, particularly to mitigate the impacts of climate change on the global south and to aid developing countries in their transition to renewable energy. So.
Okay, so we've received an amendment. Has it been accepted as friendly? Yep. So the amendment is to add resolves 5, to mandate the VP CNC to push for the expansion of...
Yeah, you didn't
okay.
know this one was. Yeah. This is the one that I've just added.
Okay, there has been an amendment proposed, which I'm just going to read out for everyone. To add resolves 5, to mandate the VP CNC to push for the expansion of the Oxford University's socially responsible investment guidelines to involve all institutions.
All investments in the fossil fuel sector.
Would the proposer of the amendment just like to kind of read it out and explain what it is, and just thank you very much.
To mandate the VP CNC to push for the expansion of Oxford University's socially responsible investment guidelines to include all investment in the fossil fuel sector beyond oil and tar sands. Because currently they don't invest in oil and tar sands, but I don't think that's good enough, and they really shouldn't be investing in any fossil fuel extraction. And it seems like it falls under Scope 3 emissions resulting indirectly from an organization's activities, such as resulting from its investments.
So I presume that's been accepted as friendly. That's been accepted as friendly, so that will be added to the board. Okay, great. Any more questions at all? Oh yeah. Yeah, we've got a question from Tom. Yeah.
If we've got time, I might as well say hi, Tom, he, him, Oxford, you still. That we have a climate justice campaign. It's a point of information. I said that, didn't I? God, people, you can't pick the stuff. That we have a climate justice campaign that currently works a lot on sort of lobbying for divestment and for doing various things beyond coal and tar sands as well. And I don't have my tablet on me, but I think we might have a divestment policy that covers some of what Resolves 5 says. That's just a point.
Just while we wait, any other points of information or questions? Oh, we've got another. Yep, go for it.
Dane Rogers, Merton College, he, him. If there isn't something in the policy book on divestment, would it not make sense for the proposers to write a second amendment adding this into the policy book?
So as a point of information, there is policy on divestment in the policy book. Yeah, point of information, it exists, yeah. Okay, so we'll all be clear on the exact wording of the motion pretty soon. That's all right. Has that not gone in yet? Okay, you know what? I think we'll move on with, yeah. Okay, we're going to move on and we're going to just ask if there's any opposition to the motion with those amendments included. There have been 2 amendments. Is everyone clear on the motion as it stands and what it means? And please raise your hand if you're not clear. Great. Is there any opposition to this motion? It passes. We're going to move on to item 3 now, council review, which is proposed by me. So if Jim's not here, so if one of the sabbatical officers would like to take the chair. Yep. I'm still in the chair, technically, I guess. We got a point of information at the back. Does someone get a mic up there? Got a mic up there? Okay.
Hi, sorry. Alex, he, him, what him again. Is there a reason the emergency motions are at the end of the meeting? Aren't emergency motions normally meant to be at the start of a meeting?
So the emergency motions are being dealt with at the end of the agenda just because they were received most recently. They can be moved up the agenda if someone would like to propose that, yeah. Yeah. So am I hearing procedural motion to move the emergency motions to now?
The top, yeah.
Okay, that's been heard. Is there any opposition to that? Seeing none, we move to item 6. Seconded, I mean... Okay, it's on the board. Item 6, supporting Yarlswood hunger strike and funding future transport. Would the proposer like to give us a short speech? Thank you.
This motion has actually changed. But no change. I mean, the title is not right. It's not, doesn't correspond with what was submitted. So the funding future transport is struck, and this is just about getting the SU to support the Yarlswood hunger strike, which is going on at the moment. I'm sure you've probably all heard of Yarlswood Detention Centre, Immigration Detention Centre. ALSU has, or the SU has supported the protests that go on there twice a year, and including subsidising a coach that went there in November. And there's a hunger strike going on at the moment over the conditions that people there are kept in. Obviously, a hunger strike is something that people do. So here in some of these notes, it lists the things that they're protesting against. And yeah, it'd be good to give them a motion of support for an incredibly severe action when they're in an incredibly vulnerable position. Obviously, a hunger strike is a really serious thing to do, especially if you're at risk of deportation. So.
Okay, great. Are there any short or factual questions on this motion? Okay, so seeing none, is there any opposition to this motion as it stands? Okay, the motion passes. So now we're moving to item 7, which is the other emergency motion we've received for this meeting. Support for congregation resolutions on the pension scheme. Would we like to have a short speech from the proposer?
Hi everyone, my name is Selekshana. I'm a graduate student at St. Edmund Hall. So basically academics from across Oxford are bringing a resolution to congregation, which is the supreme governing body made up of senior academic staff and other staff. The resolutions concern the university's position on the university's superannuation scheme, or the USS, which is the pension scheme we've all been hearing about, which is what the strike is about. So in the last few weeks, it's come to light that Oxford and Cambridge's submissions to the university's UK consultation in 2017 played a major role in the recent decision around the USS. Essentially, Oxbridge and colleges backed moving from a direct benefit to a direct contribution scheme, making pensions subject to the market. The majority of institutions up and down the country did not support this change, and the survey was distorted by Oxford and Cambridge college votes, counting like university votes. And these results legitimize UUK's decision to push through the changes that staff are now striking over. It's estimated that the shift in the pensions will cost £10,000 per year for our lecturers and staff. The resolutions that academics have submitted to congregation call on Oxford University to reverse its position on the USS. This is an issue for students as well as for staff. For those of us planning to pursue a career in academia, which is many graduate students here at Oxford, the individualization of risk within the pension scheme is concerning, and Oxford SU represents almost 11,000 graduate students, many of whom are members of the UCU. So this motion basically asks Oxford SU to stand with members of the university congregation that are bringing forth these resolutions, calling on Oxford to listen to its faculty and reverse its position. On behalf of graduate students, I also ask Oxford SU to pass this motion to support our futures.
Thanks very much. As a point of information, the resolutions can be found in full on the SU website under Student Council 7th week Hilary term. Any short factual questions? Seeing none, is there any opposition to this motion? It passes unanimously. Okay, we're going to go back up the agenda to item 3, council review. I don't know if one of the SABs would like to take the chair. Please don't leave. Okay, very quickly, this is the result of the ongoing council review. We've been trying to make council more responsive, more democratic, make it easier for you to engage with. We've introduced lots of operational changes, which are summarised in the notes, and we've proposed some small governance changes, which you can find mainly involving moving the submission deadline for motions further forward. That's about all I've got to say about it. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I'd actually really love to hear everyone else's views on the council review in general, bearing in mind this is something that I'm hoping to take forward into next year anyway. Thanks.
Oh yeah. Are there any short factual questions? Yep, go on. No. What? No? Any short factual questions? No, seeing none. Is there any opposition to this motion? Yes. Yep, yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask what people thought about 4C, because obviously quite recently in council there's been a lot of emergency motions. This meeting there was 2. and people have submitted ones before. I just worry that pushing the deadline even further back for submitting motions might mean that we'd have like more emergency motions and less stuff actually happening through council.
I'm just going to pass over to Sam to answer that, actually.
Sam Merton, he, him. So one of the points that we had through from the council review, particularly for postgraduate common rooms, is that there can be difficulties consulting their constituents between, I suppose, the publication of the agenda on Friday evening and then the council evening the following Wednesday evening. So, I mean, I take your point, it does impact on emergency motions, but I think the idea is that if we can get the agenda out on a Wednesday, we get the agenda out Tuesday, Wednesday under the system, probably Wednesday, that gives people a full week in which to consult. Now, we might then start receiving emergency motions in the extra 3 days between the Monday and the Thursday. But actually, some things that come to council are emergency motions, but lots of things that come to council are things that are planned in advance. So if something is planned in advance, submitting a motion 3 days further in advance probably isn't a huge difference.
Sorry, yeah, Jack, he, him, Wadham. I wonder if there's a better way to do that then, where you can keep a deadline but say, like, any motions by Tuesday, which get submitted, will be published so that people still have time to consult, but we're not moving a deadline, because I do think that a lot of people, I don't think we should move the deadline, basically, but I agree with your points.
Yeah, I understand that point, and I think one thing we talked about was displaying motions once they've been through steering committee on the website, kind of as and when they arrive, and at least also losing the kind of dead time that we have at the moment in between council and calling for motions the following week, and calling for motions as soon as council is done, so calling for motions on Thursday morning, so kind of bringing the whole process further forward. But the only point I'd just add is I think it is really important that everyone who votes to council consults their constituents to make it a properly representative body. And I think that's what these changes are kind of geared towards, is more ensuring that everyone has time to consult everyone who they represent.
So I just asked what.
Point of information, that almost all motions are received on the Thursday morning before the deadline. Now, you're in Oxford, this is because people push things up to the deadline. And so, yeah, that's the precise motivation for moving the deadline.
Thank you. I saw an amendment form going around, so I'll leave it for amendments. Any other questions, short factual questions to start with? Otherwise, you're good. Yeah, Dane?
Dane Rogers, Merton College, he, him. So one thing I think we ought to be discussing more widely is around the delegate system as a whole, as if each common room gets 3 delegates, tiny common rooms like Blackfriars, which I think have, 40 people get 3 votes, whereas,
Can I ask that the questions are short and factual,
Sure.
please?
Sure. Basically, the question is, have you consulted on the delegate system and reforms to it, and would that not be a natural thing to do?
We haven't consulted on the delegate system. It wasn't in the mandate of the motion setting up the council review, and it wasn't raised by very many people in our feedback and consultation.
Oh yeah, sorry, Lucas has a question. Lucas, thanks. Sorry, I didn't need the coin.
How many people responded to the consultation?
If memory serves, about 30.
Lots and lots of feedback was kind of compiled from this review. Not all of it we've actually been able to act on. A lot of it is about the atmosphere of council, things like tone, things like there should be refreshments, stuff I think, to think about going forward, but we've here just outlined the kind of more procedural governance changes that we think will help.
Any more short factual questions? Dane again?
In North Merton College. So I'm a bit short-sighted and I often have trouble reading those backgrounds, particularly blue and black. For me, it doesn't work. Would it be possible to maybe consult with various student groups such as OSDC on what would be best for people that aren't necessarily in the position as me, but maybe colourblind or so on?
I'm allowed to give a point of information, right? As a point of information, they've been consulting on this. We're looking into it from an SU perspective. In my position, I've been looking into it as well. But thank you for that. Any other questions? Or do we have an amendment? Do we have an amendment? Yeah, this is good. Okay. So we received an amendment. Taken as, yeah? I just want to see. It's not taken as friendly? Yeah. So taken as friendly or not? Yes or no? So yeah, okay. So the amendment is taken as friendly, so it's added into the motion. It will remove 4C and add 6. Yeah, resolve 6 to mandate next chair to look into publishing motions as early as possible. Yes. There you go. Cool. Oh, sorry, it's not in resolves. It's in notes. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Point of information, I don't think this amendment actually changes what you want it to change, because the critical point on this is resolves 1 to adopt the changes to the rules of council set out in the appendix. That's what moves the deadline.
We're having a discussion about this amendment. It's not taken.
Okay, can I change it to change resolves 1 to be adopt change to the rules of council set out in the appendix, except from to move back the deadline for motions? It's like.
Yeah. So we can say except 4C? Yeah? Yeah, so except 4C where the next chair will be. Yeah, and then a bracket about 4C. But yeah, I think that should be fine. Okay, that amendment was taken as friendly. It's put into the motion. Is there any opposition to this motion as it stands? No? Can I say this motion passes? Yeah, no? Yep, go on.
So the thing adds, this motion adds something about policy, saying a motion to make policy must take the wording of the policy verbatim. What is a policy?
As in, what is a policy for the student union?
Yeah.
Okay, as VP ACAPA left, you should know this. But as a point of information, policy is what governs the rules of council. No, come on, the policy is like. I have a point of it. Calm down, please. Policy is what governs what the SU can do, right? It kind of sets out the things we do, things we can't do, things like pushing for divestment, for example. That's an example of a policy that we then have for 3 years. After 3 years, policy lapses, comes back to council. We can choose to keep it or remove it. Sorry.
I think one of the things we discovered really was that council doesn't feel like it owns the policy that it actually does in governance own. This is policy that council sets, and we restrict the SU, or we allow the SU to do things, here in council. So I think we kind of identified that as something that we haven't yet really got to the bottom of how to kind of solve that problem. But I kind of sympathise with that question, basically.
Sorry, it is a fair question. I didn't mean to be rude. Go on.
I just wonder, because you're trying to make it more clear the difference between policy and mandates. And I think, I'm not sure if this is actually included in rules of council other than just in this bit to say about policy. So I feel like this might make it less clear what a policy actually is, because you suddenly bring in this notion of what policy is that isn't previously in rules of council.
Yes, so at the moment I think policy is just in either the articles or the bylaws, and this is things that council sets policy, and that is binding organisation. One of the other points you picked up is that mandates are not technically binding on the sabbatical officers because they're not policy under our current system. So at the moment, we have policy on setting policy. And that's what governs the policy, which is perhaps particularly confusing. And this, I think, brings that into the rules of council and tries to clarify the mess around mandates, in which every time you mandate someone, that is sort of morally binding on them, but it's not binding on them from a governance perspective.
I just wonder that it might be more useful to automatically convert all mandates into policy, because I feel like people don't read the rules of council and they're not going to put this is the policy explicitly when they write what they want to be a policy, and then it's just not going to become a policy due to technicality in the rules.
Yeah, just a point of information on that. Like, this is governance changes that council controls. Operationally, we will make changes to reflect that. So, like the online submission form, we'll probably just put a note that says, oh, if you're making a policy, this is what you got to do, etc. So there'll be operational changes, but...
Any other points of debate or information or questions?
Tom Marks, to see him still. I think Lucas's point probably raises quite a sort of big question that probably can't be answered in this motion, but you might want to think about next year. That says sort of that asks the difference between a mandate and a policy, and whether you should just sort of make mandates a footnote in the policy book. I think that's a big question. I think it's a good question. I don't think we can answer it now.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion as it stands? No? If not, it'll pass. Yeah? Yes, sure. Okay, we have to check quality. No? So what do we do? One sec. We're just going to check whether we're quorate. No, it's fine. I think we're okay. Jeff has just counted for us. I think we're okay. So it depends on yeah, no, true. But apart from the
Okay, so if everyone could just press 1 on the next slide to vote, and we'll just see how many votes there are. And then, pardon? Yeah, you don't count towards the quoracy. It needs to be 35 voting members.
So just basically just press 1 on your keypads. Yeah, you're not chair right now. So. Yeah, you get. Anyone else? Is anyone's voter pad not working? So we're not quorate, unfortunately, so the meeting is over. Yeah, the meeting is over. Yeah. So this will be moved to first week council next term. That's one person doesn't add up to the quorate, unfortunately.